Good evening, everyone. I will call this March 9th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Directors to order. Thank you to those attending in person tonight and those staying engaged by watching our recording at a later time. The public is reminded that if they wish to speak during community comment, they will need to fill out a speaker form located in the lobby on a table and turn it in to Board Secretary Kim Coven seated at the end of the table on my left. Comments will take place during a designated community comment portion of our agenda. Before we dive into tonight's agenda, I want to take a moment and introduce those seated at the table with me. To my right, Superintendent Degner, Directors Abraham, Eastham, and Williams. To my left, Vice President Clausen, Directors Finch, Lingo, and Board Secretary Kim Coven. With that, we will dive into our first item, which is student representative updates. And first up, we have West High, Cindy. Is Cindy here? Okay, we'll move on to City High, Lulu and Rose.
Hi, guys. There you go.
Long time no see. It's
Yes.
been a while.
As a reminder, I'm Rose.
And then I'm Lulu. We have our musical coming up, Singing in the Rain, which we're all excited about. I personally advocate for it. I'm one of the tech heads, and we are going to make it actually rain on stage. So real water and a gutter system. We're really excited about it. And also, it's a great musical, so I'll be enjoying that.
Yesterday for the Eclipse, Astronomy Club also provided every student with little glasses so we could see the sun
Yeah.
and not burn off our eyes. So
Yeah. It was great. Everyone was on the front lawn. Model UN is proud to report that they had a great conference. I assume that's what you call them, right? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Conferences, yes.
And so we're excited for Model
Yes.
UN.
I also had the privilege of going to Mock Trial State, where our City High teams took 3 of the top 10 teams. I think 8, 6, and 3rd place. And per Lisa Williams' request, I'm going to give you guys a little demo of my character. But hi, I want a hot dog real bad. Okay, that's all.
Rose is a witness for
Yeah.
mock trial.
Oh, I should have stated that. I'm not an attorney, guys. I'm not going up. I'm not going up with that voice.
We're very excited for our jazz ensemble. It's the first time they won the Iowa Jazz Championship, so go jazz ensemble.
Culture Day is also coming up, which is a tradition that City High students started last year. And this year, it'll be even bigger and better because so many people are signed up. It's going to take us a while.
Do you want to explain what it is?
Oh, Culture Day? So Culture Day consists of a fashion show. Last year, I think we had around 20 students signed up for it. This year, we have 50 students signed up for the fashion show where they wear their traditional clothing. And then right after, we're going to have performances. So people are going to sing in their native language or they're going to show us a traditional dance. And then right after, we have a foods and presentation kind of thing. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, quick, can you remind us of the date again of that?
April 26th.
It will be during the school day.
Yes.
And then, you want to talk
Oh, yeah, okay. And then also, this Friday, City High is having its first ever Fiesta Latina, which is being organized by Latino Hawks. Yes.
My update is that we have a cathedral concert tonight for choir. That will be at St. Mary's downtown. Also, prom is coming up, and we're all excited. And that will
Yes.
also be downtown at the Graduate.
Oh, and then,
We saved the best for last.
yeah,
Truly.
last update is just varsity girls won their first game at the City High courts.
Yes. Oh, I was talking about ISAS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well, so I'm in JV tennis, so I think JV also deserves some love.
yes. Varsity won their first home game, and then ISAS. Yeah, we're all, seniors. We don't have to take it, but
Yeah.
for everyone else, yeah.
Yeah.
That's our updates. Thank you.
But thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Liberty High, Kai and Oriana. Okay, that ends our student representative update. Tate is unavailable to be here tonight, so we'll move on to the ICEA update by President Brady Shutt. Welcome.
Thanks, President Malone. I was really hoping we had some other students, so I didn't have to follow those two. They're fantastic. A shout out to ISASP. You don't hear that from students very often, so that's great. I appreciate the chance to be here tonight, and Director, Superintendent Degner. Just a few shout outs and thank yous as we sort of move through the spring. I had said this earlier, but I just want to publicly say in the full meeting, a huge thank you to our CFO, Adam Kurth. He's new to our position, but his level of expertise and transparency are fantastic. And I really, the thing I appreciate in addition to that is the development of the systems that we're going to have moving forward that I think will help the district really be able to navigate pretty challenging situations much more effectively. Also, a thank you to Kristen Peterson. We had a really fun social media event, and even though Liberty, I thought ours was good. The others were better. We had for the Final Four contest. You may have seen it. There were some fantastic things. I just think that really adds to our community, and it's a really fun, activity. And so, Kristen, thanks for you and your team for putting that together. I think that was great. And I'd also just like to publicly congratulate, this is a little bit of a bird walk, but to congratulate Coach Lisa Bluter and the Iowa women's basketball team. And just sort of a phenomenal ride that we've all had. And I really think that it speaks to the climate and culture that she and her staff have been able to build. And it's pretty special to be, from Iowa, University of Iowa grad. And just to see that and to witness it, I will just say I can attest to that, how impactful that was to our young people. Just seeing the students that I had in class follow it, talk about the team, talk about what teamwork and resiliency was just fantastic. And it made talking about Title IX a lot easier for me, I have to tell you. So, but a huge congratulations to them. And I'd say that, and my last thing, and this is most importantly, just thank you to all of you on the board of directors. Your commitment to our district and to our students, our staff, and our community is clear. Your dedication and the hours and hours and hours of unpaid time that you put in on our behalf is very much and it is very deeply appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have community comment. Thank you for your interest in the Iowa City Community School District and for your willingness to share your comments. You are reminded to give your name, address, and topic on which you plan to speak. During community comment, persons may speak directly to the board about topics relevant to the district. Speakers who make comments are reminded that they are responsible for their own statements and may be subject to legal action for those which include hate speech and that are threatening, harassing, or defamatory in nature. It is expected that speakers will address the board and each other with civility and abide by the stated time limits. All community comment directed at non-agenda items and agenda items shall take place at the beginning of the meeting and shall be limited to 4 minutes per speaker and 5 minutes for speakers who has the assistance of an interpreter. Speaker's time limit will be displayed on the screen above Board Secretary Ms. Colvin. The community comment period shall be limited to 1 hour. Remaining community comment, to the extent necessary, shall take place at the end of the meeting. The board will not engage in any discussion during public comment. The role of the board is to listen. Any individual who does not abide by these rules or otherwise disrupts the meeting may be asked to leave and/or referred to law enforcement. And with that, the first community commenter will be Joseph Dobrian.
Joseph Dobrian, 1015 2nd Avenue. I always give credit where it's due, so I'll start by commending the board for voting to close Hills Elementary. Nobody wanted to see it happen, but it had to happen, and you made the right decision. Second, I have already apologized to each of you for shouting out when Mr. Eastom's motion to postpone the vote was ruled out of order at the last meeting, but I now wish to make that apology in public. I should have controlled my temper. I failed, and I'm sorry. Much of the ill feeling that has been generated with regard to the Hills Elementary closure comes from a belief that the decision was made in haste and without transparency. I don't say that the decision was hasty or that it lacked transparency, but that was a common perception, and perception is often more important than reality. Many people felt that if this decision had to be, the board should have made the effort to sell it, so to speak, to have spent some weeks or even months persuading the public outside of these meetings. There were several outbursts from the galleries during the last meeting, and while I don't condone them, they are inevitable when a sensitive issue is under discussion and emotions are running high. They're especially likely to happen when the general public believes that it has not been fairly consulted and that decisions have not been openly arrived at. In responding to these various cries from the attendees, instead of simply calling for order, President Malone mentioned several times, and I'm paraphrasing, that this is not your meeting, it's our meeting. The clear subtext of that admonition was, "Be silent, ye peasants, and know your place." It's human nature, when we have a little power, to want to lord it over our fellow man and remind our inferiors of who's boss. Any kid who has ever been a safety patrol knows that feeling, and I'm as bad as anyone. But I suggest that this meeting does not belong to you, the directors. The private meeting that you hold at the back of the room is properly your meeting, and the general public is not invited to attend it. But this public meeting is not your meeting, it is the community's meeting. It belongs to us every bit as much as it belongs to you, and we do have a duty to remain orderly. Sometimes we need to be reminded of that. But we are here because it is our right to be here, not because you condescend to let us be here. Probably the decision to close Hills Elementary would have been more readily accepted by the public if you, the board, had debated the issue in a public meeting instead of having made your minds up in private and then coming to a vote in public. You're to be praised for the explanations that you all gave for your decision 2 weeks ago prior to the vote. They were clear explanations and good for you. However, the public would probably have appreciated witnessing the process of arriving at that decision. That might have been less efficient, but more conducive to general goodwill. God love you.
Next up, we have Sandy Hong.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Hong, 209 Richard Street. I am the parent of 2 children in the Iowa City Community School District and a pediatric specialist who treats patients with systemic inflammation. Due to the holistic nature of my specialty, I regularly interpret a broad range of research and data impacting children. And the topic I want to talk today is about screen-based technology use. I'm addressing the board today about the district's ever-expanding use of screen-based devices and the loss of paper-based resources. This came to my attention this year when my son's social studies class used a computer-based curriculum that had no associated printed text or workbook and no ability to print any materials. My concerns are based on the expanding data that indicates association between screen use and the following. 1, physical changes in the eye. Myopia or nearsighted occurs with increased close work. It is irreversible and presents as blurriness of distant objects that can be corrected in some, and in others will result in absolute loss of vision. This is real. This is happening all over the world, even in the US. 2, screen-based use has been associated with eye fatigue, also known as asthenopia. This is immediate. Students feel pain, discomfort, headache, blurry vision, dry eyes, watery eyes. They have burning sensations in their eyes. They get sensitivity to light. They have nausea and the inability to keep their eyes open. These symptoms impact students' focus and learning. As you can see, I just got off work. I'm still using the wrong word. 3, screen addiction. There's research indicating that screen use begets a physical need for more screen use. We see this when people feel the need to use their cell phones whenever they have a free moment. We are all concerned about the associated loss of social interaction and downtime for thinking and daydreaming in our students. With these concerns, I would ask the board to consider the following in an attempt to maintain a healthy educational environment while ensuring that our graduating seniors are equipped with the tools that they need to thrive. 1, consider establishing a committee consisting of medical professionals, parents, teachers, and administrators to guide the district in implementing best practices for the use of screen-based digital devices that achieve state-mandated goals while limiting screen exposure. I'm willing to volunteer. 2, establish district-wide guidelines that support only the essential use of screen-based digital devices using programs that have been proven to have a demonstrated benefit over other similar paper-based modalities. We shouldn't just go with data that is given to us by savvy marketers or industry-supplied documentation. I would like the district to consider establishing guidelines for digital device hygiene. We teach kids about flossing. We teach them about drugs and alcohol. We should teach them about digital device hygiene. Eye societies recommend viewing distances of at least 25 inches to reduce the development of myopia and asthenopia. A child on a Chromebook is usually 10 to 18 inches from the screen. Other visual hygiene issues that we need to address are font size, screen settings, brightness. We need to teach our students about this. Our students and parents need to know and be educated that at least an hour of outside play will reduce their risk of myopia. I'd like the district to consider establishing screening methods to look at how much screen time students are using outside of school so that we can realize that our impact is additive to this, and consider that disadvantaged students have more issues with parent supervision, and this will increase the students' exposure to screen use. I would like the district to consider establishing protocols to identify students at risk for myopia, such as family histories of degenerative myopia and attention deficit disorders, processing disorders, or even increased excessive screen use in the home. Finally, I'd like this district to provide paper-based textbook and workbook options for all computer-based programs or curricula, and to concurrently require that all suppliers offer these options for their programs so that any student, for any reason, is not unfairly disadvantaged by the absence of these materials. I'm going to wrap up there. But
Thank
this
you.
is the beginning, right?
Thank you. Next up, we have Nicole Atchison. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Okay.
Last week, Hills community was approached by legislators and others. Nicole Atchison, talking about Hills. Last week, Hills community was approached by legislators and other school districts to have the Hills students join their district. This is unfortunate, and from the sounds of it, if the legislation passes, you as the school board members won't have a say, but you do. Tell the Hills community how great Iowa City School District is. Tell the Hills community that you're sorry for closing their school, but the Hills kids will still get a great education with Iowa City. Tell the Hills kids that you want them to be in the Iowa City School District. Fight for the Hills community. Show up to the meetings and show that the Hills students matter. This board needs to begin the process of rebuilding trust with the community. Lone Tree has showed up to meetings. Highland has showed up to meetings. Iowa City School District can show up to meetings. I'm here to ask that you keep the promise that you all made at the last meeting when you chose to close Hills. You promised to make sure Hills students were taken care of and would get the best education. Please do not let Hills be taken out of the Iowa City School District. Please fight for Hills and prove that you care about the Hills community. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our community comment. Up next, I would entertain a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Board Secretary Coven, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Did any directors have questions regarding the bills that were reviewed this cycle? Okay. Are there any items that director would like to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Board Secretary Coven, ready to vote?
Online voting is open. All votes have been cast and the motion carries with all directors voting in favor.
Thank you. Next up is the public hearing for tonight, which is the Southeast Junior High 2024 Modular Project, and Vice President Clausen.
Now is the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed plans and specifications for the Southeast Junior High 2024 modular project. The Board of Directors set the date for this public hearing on March 26, 2024. Notice of this public hearing was published in the Iowa City Press Citizen on March 27, 2024. The district will receive bids on this project at 2 p.m. on April 15, 2024 at the Facilities Management Conference Center, 1137 South Riverside Drive, Iowa City, Iowa. Notice to contractors was published as required by law at multiple statewide plan rooms and on the Iowa City Community School District website on March 27, 2024. Are there any questions from the board? Are there any questions from the public?
Thank you. We will close that public hearing. Next up is the middle school update. And, all right, Director Putacek.
I'm going to go ahead and start it here. We have two sections of the middle school update for you guys. If you remember, when we began this conversation around middle school, we really started with the idea of what's best for our kids, right? And trying to look at the experience that we thought would best position our sixth grade students for success here long term. We had identified that junior high experience seems like a really short experience, and so the ability to build some longer lasting relationships with our middle school students, to increase some involvement from families and school engagement, and then also innovative ways to try to teach our students. And that's through electives and through some of the teaming concepts that we're excited to start in sixth grade. We do hope that those will eventually grow up to seventh and eighth grade. There's some factors that we still need to work through, and we just got through a financial oversight committee meeting, and so obviously that'll have some implications as well. But really rooted in this fact that we thought middle schools were best for our kids, and the ability to, again, connect on those relationships and have a new approach to their sixth grade experience from an instructional perspective. Tonight, what we wanted to spend some time talking to you about is what some of the communication that families can expect from the district here over the next several months, and then also what some of those activities and experiences are going to look like. And then finally, we'll come back with a portion about the construction and the update with the construction. You guys just had a public hearing here for a modular project, and so Chase is going to handle that part for us tonight, and want to make sure we get your questions answered, so you know some critical points coming up here at the end of April and May with some potential decisions we need to make. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lucas.
Thank you, Superintendent Dagner. Thank you, directors, for the opportunity to be in front of you tonight to talk through all the exciting work that we're doing with middle schools. As Matt had mentioned, I'm going to start kind of talking through that before and after school opportunities for our students. Next is that outreach plan that we intend to communicate with families through the remaining part of this school year. And then lastly, Chase will talk through construction updates. Now, I was a middle school either administrator or teacher for 18 years, and we stressed so much about the importance from the beginning bell to the end of the bell, but we knew what ultimately sometimes brought students to school is what happened before school as well as after. So it's important for us to think through the engagement piece. I've spent a lot of time in front of you talking to you about what happens from the beginning bell to the end of the bell, but we probably have not spent enough time talking about the before and after school opportunities afforded to not only our 7th and 8th graders, but also to our 6th graders in this new transition. So I pulled this quote here today just to stress the importance of those before and after school opportunities. And if you had not had a chance to read that already, I just want to give you a few seconds to read that. Again, this all ties back to engagement. Student performance in the school day, student attendance, student behavior, all translates back to students feeling that they belong. And that's one of the goals of our before and after school programs and opportunities that I'm going to talk to you about here tonight. So what I tasked our junior high administrators and our activities directors to do is, all right, what have you done over the course of the last few years that you have afforded opportunities to kids after school? That may be in the terms of the athletic opportunities, or maybe in terms of any clubs or organizations that meet within your group. And I'm just the sheer list of these between the 3 schools is just impressive. And while we cannot say this is what's going to happen at this particular day, here at Northwest, this is going to be offered by this particular person. And the reason I say that is every year those clubs differ. And those clubs differ based upon student interest and sponsorship of the adults. So as much as we'd like to say, each and every single one of these activities is going to be offered to 6th graders as well as 7th and 8th graders after school next year, I can't say that because that might not be the interest of our kids. Again, we've talked a lot about what interests us as adults in this room, but just like the classes that we selected as electives and exploratory classes were based on their interest, the same is to be said with what happens before and after school. So this is just an exciting list about what possibilities are based upon what we've seen in our system, but we know that there could be additional opportunities afforded to our kids as well. Also think it's important to talk about how those stipends are incorporated within our negotiated agreements. So all those sponsorships and how our staff are paid are part of that negotiated agreement as well. So those are conversations we're having internally to make sure that we're mindful of these possible increase number of opportunities and clubs within our system, and we need to make sure that we account for those. So what you see a lot on this list are those non-athletic opportunities for kids. But we need to think through, with 6th graders being unable to participate in interscholastic, we've not really had to necessarily think outside the lens of clubs. So that's something we need to be mindful of without 6th graders being able to participate interscholastically, but still being able to have that interest being met within our school system. So just last week, we had our middle school sports schedule released, the first draft of it, which is done outside of our system, done by somebody who actually works as part of the Cedar Rapids Community School District. So he released the entire sports year schedule, fall, winter, and spring, that releases not only when those sports seasons are, which then allows us to see, all right, when are facilities going to be available? The exciting thing about middle school is sports seasons are back to back to back to back to back, which is great for our 7th and 8th graders wanting to participate in those. But when we try to find the space and availability of our facilities, that sometimes makes it a challenge. But it's a challenge that I'm very impressed with our junior high ADs right now are taking on. So we're actually set to meet last week, and I wish I had more information that I could give you, but we were just given this sports schedule this last week. I've asked them to think outside the box of things that we have not done that can incorporate and get students ready for what they're going to ultimately what those endeavors that are going to be available for them in 7th and 8th grade. I've also asked and tasked them to think about, all right, we operate within a feeder system. We are so lucky in Iowa City that the majority of our students that attend one junior high or middle school are going to attend that high school. So why not capitalize on some of the opportunities available through some of the sponsors and the coaches and the programs that are already there? This is a great way, and some of the feedback that I've heard from our families within our district is capitalizing on our feeder programs within our system. So this is a great opportunity to do that. What we think we've identified is a few windows, both in the spring and the summer, the fall and the spring, sorry about that. The fall and the spring about when these activities can occur. So we're excited about the fact to start really putting some things in place next week. And then also we're going to take that back to the high school ADs about how we can incorporate the varsity coaches, the lower level coaches to be part of that as well. So students, when they see those faces in 6th grade, they're going to see them again in 7th and 8th grade and once they go into high school. We want to capitalize on that, and that's one amazing part of our system. So that's one of the things that we'll be having for future information for our families about when they can anticipate those on a more firm and solid schedule beginning next school year. Lastly, I want to talk through the communication plan that we have embarked on. So each of our junior high current administrative teams, as well as counseling departments, have either been to the buildings to talk through the students, or we're holding information nights with their families. Great information, but it's a lot. I mean, we're 3-4 weeks ago. We know our families are going to have a lot of questions. They're going to want a lot of information from now until the students enter their doors in August. So what we did, and thank you to Kristen, as well as our current junior high principals, is really put together a solid plan of what our communication is going to look like beginning this week, as well as through the end of May. We want to make sure that questions that parents typically have, again, students are very resilient. Parents are the inquisitive ones. They want to know detail to detail to detail to make sure everything that they can plan for the kid, they have in their knowledge bank before the kids come in the door. So what I've asked for them to do is think through those particular topics that families always want to know about when they have our first student into the junior high or middle school setting. So you can kind of see a list there of what we anticipate those particular conversations and themes and topics being for our particular messaging. And I'm going to lay out here on the next slide about what that's going to look like, but this incorporates not only district messaging from Superintendent Degner, but also things that we can post on social media, really promoting the great things that we anticipate to happen in the middle school, and then building messaging coming directly from the principal to really firm up that relationship with families before they come in the door. So again, we talked about the district message, things that we can communicate from our district lens that no matter what school, North Central, Northwest, or Southeast the student is attending, they can anticipate these types of experiences when they're in their building. Kristen and her team are amazing at social media, so we want to make sure that those families that use social media to get their information, that we publicize those great things. Things like our program of studies, things like our PBIS work within our district, things that we're going to do to engage students before, during, and after the school day. And then the principal messages, you can kind of see through the timeline in the gray box there below. We anticipate a message going out to our families this week, and then we anticipate every other Thursday, messaging coming from the building principals. That way our families can know when to expect those messages, and that every principal is going to be capitalizing upon the same theme. Again, that way we have a consistent flow of information that every student and family within our district, no matter where they live, is receiving that same information. We're excited that students are going to finally enter the building in the early part of May. It's always an exciting time when students that are going to be seeing the building for the first time, when they walk through those doors for the first time and just kind of look to see all the things and the possibilities and probably the sheer size that they're not typically used to. The part that they love the most, though, is not necessarily seeing the adults or seeing the building. They want to hear from the other students. So we want to afford those opportunities so those students can speak to the real-life experience that they've had walking through their building. Obviously, this year, it'll look a little bit different since we're excited to offer 2 new classes into the middle schools and 2 new sets of kids in those first building visits. Then last, we want to make sure that parents know where to get information. It shouldn't be until the first round of fall conferences when parents understand where to use Infinite Campus, how to navigate Canvas, how to go about getting hold of the right people. For our families coming from elementary to junior high or middle school, your students now interact with a large number of staff members, which may not have been the case in elementary. So we want to make sure that people know how to navigate the system. And we need to be conscious of make sure that all of our families understand that, because we want that relationship between school and home to be as successful as possible for the success of their kids. So again, I think it's important, and I think I said this earlier today, maybe in some other meeting that I was in, but something that we should have done earlier, maybe with maybe a formalized communication plan, but it's better late than never. We've got a lot of information coming out in the busy time of the spring to making sure our families are ready. Next part, Ms. Chase is going to talk about, but I want to make sure before we cut to there, I give an opportunity for questions.
One quick
based on these.
question. Thank you. The planned communication from the building principals, will they be using a template to ensure the same information is shared with families, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I say that, nobody wants a canned message though either.
Right, no,
When Kristen and I
absolutely.
met with them last week, we're like, here's a message that, like our first message, this is not how you speak. We know that, but we want to make sure that the theme and the kind of the meat of the message is the exact same. So when we talk about this, what does that look like in your building? But yes, they will receive very similar messages.
Thank you.
Luke, this is a great presentation of a good plan, great plan. I know I bug you guys all the time about translation services and making sure we get messages out in languages that parents want to and need to hear. Is that part of what you're thinking of?
Yep, messages will be sent out from Blackboard, which will then populate through our top 5 languages like we would any other message. One thing, just maybe behind the scenes work, it hasn't always been convenient for our junior high administrators to get messages to their incoming families. Maybe the lack of email addresses with students coming in, but technology has been great in putting together a spreadsheet with all the parent contact emails. So even the students that may not exist within their building now, they will have the distribution list to make sure that they have everybody that's going to be coming into their building. They've got all those contact information. But as far as the messaging itself, when we send those emails, just like we would any other important message in our district, it'll be the top 5 languages of our district.
Okay, thanks a lot.
I'm wondering if we'll have all this information somewhere in like an FAQ that people can just go to.
Yep. And also our building principals, like, all right, on our website, can we make sure that we have a landing page for all these messages that come through? So our building principals have asked for that, and there's certainly something we can think of more from a district lens for us to stockpile all that information.
And then my other question is just on the activities. It's in the negotiated agreement, but a lot of that, if I remember right, if it's still that way, it was spelled out real specifically to like chess club. But if chess club is no longer the thing and then now it's Magic the Gathering club, do we have like flexibility built in so that if they're like, hey, we want, I think we got an email a couple weeks ago about a bike club at a school.
We do. We've actually added a lot of flexibility, but good memory. We actually tried to provide some structure by adding a number of clubs at each level. So at the junior high, I think it's 14 per building is what they can have. And along with that rate that we pay, we've also given them the opportunity, both at the junior high or now middle school and the high school, to what we called kind of supersize that stipend for certain clubs. And that can vary year to year because you're right, Director Clausen, interest could change over the course of a student's time at the middle school or even over the course of the year, but we do lock it in for a year. So we have tried to put some mechanisms in place to address that.
Excuse me. One question I have is, in your messaging, how are you going to explain the difference between the middle school modality versus the junior high? Because I think a lot of parents grew up in the junior high setting and still have not really been a part of a middle school setting.
Yeah, let me try to think through an answer that without my lived experience, because I think a lot of people are still calling themselves middle schools without necessarily operating as a middle school. And I think one of the things when we talk about the middle school a lot is the teaming aspect. You know, when we talk about the junior high aspect, we are allowing and we are affording so many different opportunities for students, and that's one of the big changes with junior high as compared to middle schools, is the ability to choose with a wide variety of electives. So that's one thing we'll have to be crafty with what that messaging looks like. But as far as, you know, how we can go about making sure that people get that message, you know, we just need to be mindful of that. You know, we also need to be mindful of our staffing that comes with that. You know, without the, you know, the data to support it, you know, one of the things that's very difficult is sixth grade teaming is a little bit different than seventh and eighth grade. The majority of our sixth grade teachers have that K-6 license, which allows them to teach any of those particular areas. As we get into seventh and eighth grade, we have a lot more specialized classes that then require specialized licenses. So it makes pairing teachers a lot more difficult. And the more choice we offer to kids, it becomes a little bit more increasingly difficult as well. Not to say that that couldn't be done, but we would have to rearrange what our priorities are with our staffing.
What does the teaming look like for a middle school environment?
A lot of those times it's done strictly with the core. So they pair up the language arts, social studies, science, mathematics teacher, all work within the same and then with the same group of students. So that's typically when we say teaming, that's typically what they refer to as with the teaming concept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the second part of the conversation, I don't have any slides. Just want to talk a little bit about the public hearing topic tonight, the modular project at Southeast, and give a quick update overall for the three junior high, soon to be middle school construction timelines. First, thank you to the board for your approval of the public hearing at our last meeting. And as we talk about Southeast first, and for all the schools, actually, we're still on track looking at a substantial completion date of August 8th, which that's the good news. I'll talk a little bit more in depth about North, West, and North Central here in a little bit, but focusing on Southeast, what we put in front of you last meeting, and you'll see come back from us in the meetings in the near future, is really what we call our contingency plan, our insurance policy to make sure that we have students on site at Southeast in August. And one of the unique pieces of what we've done with this bid process is that we've structured it so that we don't have to bite it off all at one time. We've put in the bid what we would call a deferred alternative. Now, deferred alternatives or alternative bids are not uncommon. We just usually do them along the way. But because of the way we've structured this, we felt it was better to do it up front. And so the bid process opens next week on the 15th, or excuse me, we will collect, Jeff almost freaked out. We'll collect bids on the 15th next week, and that will be for the entire modular project. But we're actually going to look at it in two stages. The first stage being for the footings and the foundation and the infrastructure that has to take place before we would actually move the modulars onto the property. We would then set a trigger date of May 28th to make a decision about whether or not we need to actually go forward and move the modulars to Southeast. I share all that first to say, next week, what you will see is at the meeting at the end of the month, you'll get the entire bid package. So you'll be able to see what it would cost us or what the bid was accepted for both that first stage to set that foundation, then also what those additional costs would be if we had to actually move the modulars over the summer. We will come back to the board and have another conversation with you at the end of May if we need to go forward with that step. Now, one of the reasons we kind of don't have all this written out is this is kind of changing day by day. If you've been by Southeast, you've seen that the steel decking's on, so the roof is close behind, and so we're really literally monitoring this every day, meetings with 2 of the schools in the last 24 hours to figure out where they are. And so this could change even by next meeting. Now, not to the point where we would suggest that we don't move forward with, again, this contingency plan, but every week we have more and more information. Again, why we want to 2-tier this. So all we would be on, the hook for after the end of April would be for the foundations or the footing for the modular. So we'd have that opportunity to continue to come back and then make that decision later in May if we wanted to move forward with the actual modular project. Now, as it started out, we see this as our safety net, as our fallback. The substantial completion date is the August 8th. We also are continuing to work with the contractor to find other ways to incentivize getting the work done. Looking at overtime, looking at working more days in the week, looking as they complete other projects, bringing on folks from those to add to the people power at Southeast. We got a report earlier this week that they moved about 90 individuals from the work they were doing up on the hospital site in North Liberty because they were ahead of schedule there to help with the work here. And so we see that continuing on as a way to hopefully keep the work on track. So again, we think it's important to have this piece in place so that we can make sure the kids are there at Southeast when the year starts. But it truly is our fallback as we work with the Southeast construction team and shoot for that August 8th date. Before I go on to North Central and Northwest, any questions about the modular project that's going to be on the board agenda?
I'm assuming May 28th is the drop dead date because you will require board approval, and that's our last meeting in May.
Yes. Well, we're still working through that. Usually what happens when the board accepts the bids, we are on, that's when we say, okay, we're committed to paying the company this. What we're looking at, because of the way that we've done this, is we're going to investigate whether or not we can structure that. So even if we come back to you at May 28th, since the whole package has already been approved by the board, if at that point you empower the superintendent to say no later than this date, the superintendent has the authority to say we're going to move forward with this, again, because it is such a week-by-week basis. Now, that's something we're still vetting out, but we're looking at the end of May, beginning of June.
Yeah, you could give me the option in a week after that, 2 weeks after that, if the team thought that then we could wait 2 more weeks to actually make the decision and commit the funds. The other part of it that Chase didn't necessarily touch on that would be a consideration too is that if we have accepted the whole bid package at that point, that we still have modular classrooms that have to get probably moved off of campuses somewhere. If they don't get moved to Southeast, then maybe they just get moved out of the district, and that's what we do with those funds as well. So that's some of the pieces that are probably still in the air before we would ask you to make a decision on it, but would be, do we word the motion in such a way that you give the team authorization to make a decision later? Do you want to just make the decision right there in May? You can probably hear from us, we're trying to buy as much time as possible with that. And then one thing in specific circumstance with Southeast about why we're in this situation was just the initial delays with the permit issues with getting started with the city, and then also soil. Once we got into the ground over there at Southeast, we had all kinds of problems with the soil to the point where we thought we were going to have to re-pour some different elements of it, and that delayed us for a period of time. Thankfully, with the weather that we've had since January, we've been able to get back closer to the original timeline. So like Chase said, still on timeline there, but we do have a couple decision points that we'll need to be making soon.
And then when we reach that decision point, I go around my head with this a lot, and it seems, and I know the team knows this, but it seems, if the mods are gonna cost $1 million, but we can spend $750,000 into accelerating construction, then obviously that's what we wanna do, because while we don't wanna pay extra money, it's still less extra money. But I have to wonder if there's some intrinsic value also that's not monetary, but it's still valuable in in not having to go to mods, and not having them on the property, and not having the students start in the mods, and not having the teachers in the mods, and then not having to make that transition 6 weeks later. So, the mods are $1 million, but maybe for $1.2 million, we can get the construction done on schedule. That's when if we have to reach that decision point, that's the type of information I would really be interested in knowing, if that makes sense. Is it feasible to get it done without a mod, and what is that cost, so that I can compare that cost to the mod cost? Obviously, if it's going to cost $4 million and the mods cost $1 million, we got to go with the mods. But if it's 1.1 to 1 million, that's a tougher call.
And those are the conversations we're having on a weekly basis. I think one of their challenges, Director Williams, is it might not even come down to cost. It might come down to people that are available. Yep. And so that's what we're monitoring too. Even if we can work it out at, additional $200,000, say this will cover it, they might not have the folks to actually come and do the work. They were bringing in, at one of the sites, they were bringing in crews from as far away as Minnesota over the last few weeks to help get the work back on track. And so we think we believe the contractors, that they're pulling resources, and Dwayne and Jeff, credit to them. They continue to push the teams to get this work done by August 8th. They know the seriousness of it. And sometimes it's just about people aren't available, or there's a material delay that's unexpected.
I think Jeff quoted us the number today. Sorry to put words in your mouth if I'm wrong, but an electrician company used to have 200 employees, and now they're working with 40, right? And so I think that's the size of the piece, is even if we could get them there, there's just, what Chase is talking about, that's a scale to the problem, really.
And I think if Dwayne were here, he'd probably give us some indication that he was like yelling it. I mean, he wouldn't say it directly, but he might indicate that they really heard me. They're gonna. Is that happening? Some of that like stern.
Absolutely, yes, it is.
Jeff's pulling the mic.
Yeah, he's been mainly through our construction managers, but he's every other week they're online and he attends them, and so he's more growling than yelling, I think, but he's there.
So they know, and I know everyone's serious, and that's where I'm at too, Lisa. If it's a money thing, because moving kids in and out, and then we got to move the mods once we're done. So
we have the contingencies built into the individual projects. In addition, we have it built in FMP 2.0. As Superintendent Degner said, if we don't move the modulars to Southeast, we still have to move them off our properties. And so it's not even a sunk cost if we contract with the company, because we were going to have to go back to them at some point and get them to haul the modulars away. And so we will keep doing that. And so I'm happy to hear that's the sentiment of the board, because that's not our impression either. As once May 28th gets here, to be like, well, we're just going to put them in modulars. No, we're going to continue to push up until the final date. For those that were here when we opened Grant, or when we did some of the refurbishing in some of our schools, right? We had contractors on site the night before. They were rolling sod out the morning of, and so we will push them until school starts to get as much done as they possibly can. So moving on to and we can come back to more questions on Southeast. So Northwest is really actually pretty quick. Again, substantial completion date looking at August 8th, and we don't have any real concerns there, knock on wood, that the contractor's on time. Obviously there's the things that happen in the normal course, but of the three projects, that one is furthest along and looking at August 8th. Up at North Central, we're also looking at August 8th. However, the contractor has started to hedge a bit on the date. That project's unique because they're building up around the existing building. And so while they're extremely confident that the first floor will be done by August 8th, it's that second floor that they're now starting to question about. So like we've talked about, we'll continue to press them. Why we're not having the same conversation about North Central with modulars that we're having at Southeast is there's already a 10-plex there. And so that was already on site. That was part of the plan from the beginning because we were able to shift kids into the 10-plex during this year so construction could go along as quickly as possible. So we're still hopeful, optimistic that they will meet the August 8th deadline, but we'll continue to keep you informed on that one as well as we truck through the summer.
Any additional questions?
Just a quick question about the modulars again. So once the buildings are built and all the students are in the new buildings, is there any use for these modulars? Will the junior highs, or I'm sorry, the middle schools have any use for these modulars in the future?
Our plan is no, and that was part of a commitment we made to the district even back in FMP 1.0 that we would rid the district of these modular units. It's just taken a lot longer, I think, than any of us thought. And so our planning for design of the buildings, for the size of the buildings, is that they'll be able to account for the students that we have with the addition of the sixth graders. And then with the addition of the sixth graders, we'll not need them at any of our elementary schools. No, Director Finch, we don't have a plan, and our hope is that we can stop utilizing them as housing for students in the long run.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate that update. Next up, we'll have the Johnson County Poor Farm presentation.
Yeah. Carmen and Patrick are here to talk to you a little bit about the partnership that we've been able to continue to grow and establish with the Johnson County Poor Farm. Many of you have been out for either a joint entities meeting or a tour and gotten to see some of the opportunities that are available there. And so we're happy to report that we've taken advantage of some of those opportunities and have some really neat experiences lined up for our students here moving forward. So guys, go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you so much. We're so excited to do this here for you today. Patrick is going to do a lot more of the talking than I am, so he is. The big piece, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background story of where we are right now, how we got to where we are, and then Patrick's going to share a little about what we're doing for this year, for year one, and then I'll kind of wrap it up a little bit of what we're doing, then moving on from here. So as Superintendent Degner said, we met with Jason Grimm and Lisa Stark a while back for sometime in the fall, just to kind of think through what a partnership might look like. And so when we sat down and had a conversation with them, took a tour of the farm, and then we sat and just talked about what are the different activities we're currently doing right now, what is the scope of our district, and what do we potentially see growth and partnership with the Poor Farm for our students. And so we've pretty much planned out, after that conversation with Lisa and with Jason, planned out a 3-year plan of what that would look like for right now. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what that connection looked like when we met in the fall after my first meeting with Jason and Lisa and Superintendent Degner, and then we met with a group of teachers after. We have an application for a grant that we applied for. We'll talk a little bit about what Patrick will be doing with our 6th grade team starting next year, what we plan and hope to do in the future for years 2 and years 3 with our secondary teams, and then moving forward from that, how we can continue growing with the program. So to start, like I said, Jason Grimm and Lisa Stark are the 2 project leaders for the Johnson County Poor Farm, and then they also work with the Iowa Valley Resource Conservation and Development, and they do a lot of work throughout the state of Iowa. So they reached out, wanted to initiate some form of partnership with our school district. They already work with other districts, and they're already doing a lot of other activities with teachers within the district. It just hadn't been formalized yet. So the goal was to figure out how can we formalize a partnership and establish different activities for our students to have a broader exposure to the Poor Farm and just have a bigger idea of how to do more of the farm to school program, and then also from the farm to table. And so that was what we're trying to explore. So we invited a group of teachers. We have an administrator from West High. Jenny Eustace was one of our principals from West High who was able to come with us. Ben Grimm, our grounds manager, was part of that project too, so we're working with him on that. And then we have teachers from all three, from the three comprehensive high school and then from Tate also. So we had our coordinators, our elementary and secondary coordinators for social studies, for science, and then our CT coordinator was present. And then we've also been working with our world language coordinator also to partner in this work. So we had teachers who were also from our AP environmental class, our environmental science course, our earth and space class, and some of our teachers from our culinary arts course were present also. So all of those teachers are excited to partner with us on this, and so they were able to come to the farm in the fall. They got a tour of the farm and then met with Jason and the team, and we sat down and had a conversation of what some potential partnerships could look like, and talked about what is currently happening in our schools, what they're currently doing with Jason and with Lisa and the Farm to School, and then what are different ways that we could have more interdisciplinary connections and find projects that students can do that are cross-curricular across the board. Jason and Lisa and I worked together with Dominic Adia, who is our CT coordinator, to apply for a grant for the USDA. It's a Farm to School grant that allows us to have $100,000 for the 3-year span to explore different opportunities of what we can do to provide opportunities for our students to continue learning and growing. And so one of those amazing opportunities is what Patrick's going to share with you.
Yeah, thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Patrick Snyder. I'm our elementary science and social studies curriculum coordinator, and this really is a pretty exciting and unique opportunity to grow this partnership with, sixth grade's going to the middle school setting, and so we have an opportunity to build something that's really unique and really great, and something that maybe hasn't been done before, and really amplify our community resources with that as well. So up on your screen, you see what we do in science and social studies at a sixth grade level. So there are lots and lots of natural connections, especially with earth science and life science, and then connecting those with our social studies units of the human story and influence in second wave civilizations. So some thoughts that we have that we're working on developing with our sixth grade science and social studies teachers and the Historic Poor Farm is really amplifying those opportunities with what we already do in our programming and our curriculum with students, and how to meet Johnson County Poor Farm in that same area. So ideas that we have are things like getting all the sixth graders out to the Historic Poor Farm in the fall. This is such a great opportunity for our sixth graders to do new things and innovative things, and we want to take advantage of those opportunities that are presented to us. So we really want to get them out there, and while they're out there learning about Iowa's history, learning about the geology of our land, learning about Johnson County's history, learning about the history of the Poor Farm and what that means in our community. So obviously there are real social studies connections there, along with like what makes Iowa such an agricultural rich environment. So there's real science connections there too. So getting kids out there and then seeing crops that are ready to be harvested too. So that's the real push of getting our sixth graders out there in the fall. And then continuing that learning with virtual experiences throughout the winter, and even starting plants in the classrooms that could help the farmers that are on site there at the Johnson County Historic Poor Farm. We can help work directly with those farmers, thinking about what they need for the spring and how we can help with that in our classrooms, so we can be learning about the diversity of life and how plants are growing, and we can continue to learn about cells and how they need their photosynthesis and they can grow, and all those really great science connections while also helping people in our own community. So those are really exciting opportunities. And then having the opportunity to transplant those seeds and those crops and those plants that we have started in the classroom out into the Historic Poor Farm as well. And then part of the informed action aspect of social studies would be like, how do we amplify the voice of people around us, and how do we amplify those members of the community that are partnering with us? So leveraging the opportunities that our sixth graders have with social media, with messaging from their schools, and amplifying the voice of the stories of the Johnson County Historic Poor Farm and the farmers that are working there and what they're trying to accomplish, and using our kids as an avenue of promoting them as well. So really like exciting partnership opportunities. And it's good work, and we're excited about it.
Yeah. So the next part of this is really extending this to what we're doing with our secondaries. And the big piece is some of the work we're going to do with our secondaries will also flow into the work we want to do with our elementaries this year. So we're hoping that our students from our AP Environmental Science class and our Earth and Space Science class, also in our Culinary Arts class, can support the work that will be happening with our elementary students for our middle school students, for sixth grade. So the goal is to also have our students from secondary come in to the Poor Farm right before our sixth grade students come in and kind of learn a little bit about what the sixth grade students will be doing, and then help support that. So they'll be kind of helping to teach and to lead that day with the sixth graders, and then build that partnership so they can have that foot in the classroom and still go back into the classroom and work with our sixth graders as they're doing some of these different projects that they'll be doing throughout the year. So that's the one step we want to take. And then from there, we're going to continue exploring just different ways that we could have other projects and other curricular areas explore what that partnership with the Poor Farm will be. And so we're bringing our team back. Our original team is going to come back this now in May to meet with Lisa and Jason again to just talk through different activities that we want to really think through. And the goal is to really be intentional about how we're also connecting and thinking about what are some potential agricultural courses that we could explore for future years, and then be able to connect. If the students are getting this experience in sixth grade, how can we continue with those experiences for them throughout high school? And finding ways that we can connect those with our career pathways that we've established for our students. The other piece for that is then potentially throughout the year, in year 3, start thinking through how we can have more interdisciplinary connections, so more cross-curricular projects at middle school and at the high school that are aligned with our portrait of our graduate competencies, and so students can kind of see themselves in those spaces, and then thinking through what are some opportunities that we can bring to the Center for Innovation with this, and with hopes that eventually in the future we can establish an agriculture program or something close to that in our district. So that's our goal. So right now, as we say, it's pretty much in the initial processes. We're still waiting for information from the grant application, but the sixth grade, Patrick is really deep in that planning process with the team, so we know that's for a go. And then the big internship opportunity right now is that the Poor Farm do have spaces and openings for at least 2 to 3 of our students to participate in an internship over the summer. And so the goal is to have that, and students can earn college credit through that internship program with Kirkwood Regional. And so the goal is to really see how many students are interested in wanting to do that. We currently have students right now who are using the opportunity that we have with our partnership with Clear Creek Amana to do some of their agriculture courses there. So we're hoping that we can bring those students in to do some of that partnership work with the Poor Farm over the summer and get paid to do that. So, any questions?
Directors?
I have a memory that a former school board member was very interested in the district expanding our teaching for kids that wanted to enter agriculture in one of its many, many aspects. And they were particularly interested in whether or not we were supporting FFA activities. So I'm not sure if we do have an FFA organized in the district now. No, I indicated not. So is this seems to me to be an expansion of what FFA may do or might be doing, I guess, if they were present in the district's overall educational opportunities. Do you have any comments about that aspect? No?
No.
No.
I do not.
It's like, I'll stay away from that one. Yeah.
Did I stumble into something here?
That's
That
okay.
was your question, Charlie. Do you have any comments and comment answers?
Come around,
So,
she
nope,
doesn't,
I have none.
right, yeah.
I think the thing to remember about ag and FFA is you can have ag courses without an FFA program, right? FFA is kind of the wraparound extracurricular, or maybe co-curricular is a better way to say it, part of the programming. So there's still opportunities for us to have ag courses without having an FFA program. There would be potential with a site such as this one for projects that FFA students could potentially work on, right? I think that's sometimes what becomes a limiter for schools being able to do FFA. Would be, do they have some of those spaces for kids to take on projects like greenhouses and different I guess, facilities like that. And so this would be potential long-term. I think the first thing would be, even just from a curricular standpoint, could we offer, you know, a more robust program around some of those ag courses?
Okay, all right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into that either. This is, I mean, I'm just really excited about this. I can sort of hear that too. And just the list of different teachers who said were involved. I mean, it's just really exciting. I just think this is, and then knowing, I mean, maybe a lot of folks don't know, a lot of the people using those farms are immigrant families. And it's just such a cool partnership that we have a county that provides this access to folks so that they can come in and then grow crops that they're familiar with, that they know how to cook with and use. Those folks can then turn around and turn that into a business opportunity. And for our students to sort of see that and be a part of it, you know, and I look back at our portrait of a graduate, empathy, communication, global citizens, learners mindset. I mean, this just covers so many areas. It's just exciting to see where we can go. I would imagine the county is just as excited to partner with us. And I also think it's pretty cool that, you know, there's other districts, but I really am excited for us to take advantage of this and just see where it goes. I just think there's so many exciting opportunities. And, you know, we just don't get enough time up here, obviously with budgets and all of that, to talk about the cool stuff, which is curriculum and what kids are doing and how we're, frankly, being innovative with it and connecting with community. So no questions. I am just really excited to see where this goes.
I don't have a lot of comments, but I did want to say how pleased I am that you've sort of landed on the sixth graders for this, because, you know, moving the School of the Wild to the fifth grade, now this is sort of their opportunity to get outside and, you know, and so I think that's wonderful, and also the interaction with the upperclassmen. That's a nice addition to this. So thank you. I'm really excited about this as well.
That's full credit to Patrick.
It's an opportunity to swing for the fences.
Thank you.
The upside is just enormous, and I think our kids are going to love it.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
I am just so grateful that you guys have put this together. I've been a big fan of the Poor Farm now for a few years, and remember my first meeting out there where it was muddy and we all had our wellies on, except for Superintendent Degner, who came out in his very nice brown leather loafers, which was very funny.
I don't have them anymore.
Yeah, I bet you don't. But it is such an amazing site and location, and there are so many things to do out there that I am really excited that you guys have put this together, that we're going to start moving forward with them, and then I think sky's the limit for what can go on out there. And I'm thrilled that some of our kids might be able to intern out there over the summer. If no one's ever been out of the Poor Farm over the summer, it's really, I mean, it's beautiful, and there are all these small businesses growing and really doing farm to table or farm to grocery store activities out there, which helps with ag, but it also helps with how to own a small business or how to run a small business, and marketing and economics and all this stuff that our kids are going to benefit from. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. Thanks. Next up is the legislative updates. Superintendent Degner.
Yeah, I'll be somewhat brief with this. I think the biggest portion of the legislative update, of course, is the AEA supplemental state aid teacher salary supplement bill that was passed. For us, those three different big pieces of it, 2.5%, we kind of showed you the impact of that tonight based on what that does to our budget forecast. When we met in Financial Oversight Committee meeting, we had factored or assumed 3% for a very brief period of time, and then it went back to 2.5%. So that's the growth number we have, and so we can start to plug that in now. The teacher salary supplement, districts will be divided into 3 tiers based on enrollment. We're in the largest tier, the 3,500 students or more, and that allocation in that tier is the smallest, because as you can imagine, districts that are in the first tier, smallest districts, probably need more funding to get that number up to that 47.5, which is the new state minimum for beginning teacher salary. That'll move to $50,000 next year. There is a commitment from the Department of Management to go back through and review if districts are short in the allocation that is needed to get to the 47.5 or the 50,000, that they're supposed to come back through and do that. And I was just seeing a few emails from some superintendents here in the AEA that some districts are appearing like they're going to be short on their allocation. I think we feel good about where that's going to position us as a district, knowing where our salary schedule has been, that it will make up a big difference for us for the 43.5 that has been our beginning salary to that 47.5. The piece I've talked less to you guys about is the career teacher aspect of 12 years at 60,000, because our salary schedule is already well beyond that. And so our allocation, as we continue to receive that and get information on it, we'll talk to you about how that works with the budget impact, and of course then with negotiations and working with Brady and his teams through that process. So that is a large element of this bill. And then finally, the AEA portion of it. For special ed services, we think that most of those things will stay somewhat situated. 90% of the district's dollars will continue to flow through to the AEA. 10% would be able to be retained by the district if we choose not to spend that 10% with the AEA. We probably have some questions about what that service is going to continue to look like. We talked about that at the legislative forum a little bit, and I think John was vulnerable and open about what they're going to try to do and provide. But that'll be a change, right? We know we're going to have a lot more of Department of Ed management oversight of what happens with those AEA functions. We're going to have turnover in positions and people. And so I think there's a lot to be learned there over the next few years about how that works. The other portion of the money is a $3 million set aside that's been for media and ed service dollars. And those have typically just flowed straight to the AEA. Now, in the way this bill is written, 40% of those dollars have to go to the AEA next year, and then in year 2, the district could keep 100% of those dollars. So our first order of business is to find out what will be provided for the 40% that we flow through to the AEA. Chief Spear has sent through some surveys to districts to try to inquire about what's most important to us, about what they're providing, because they'll, of course, try to align that 40% resource pool to those services. So that'll be work that happens here over the next couple months as well, so we can make a determination to do what with the funds the district has more control on now. And then year 2, of course, those funds are wide open to us in that sense. And so it'll be a big year of learning in that area as well. The other piece I wanted to touch on was some community commenter mentioned about, some potential, I don't think we've seen any formal proposed legislation, but it's definitely been in the media about whether or not a city can choose to leave a school district. Just right now, the way it's stated in Iowa code is that both districts would have to mutually agree to that. And, we responded to a Gazette media inquiry today that stated, of course, we have no interest in that. We're looking forward to continuing to serve the students in Hills and the students in Hills that we currently serve throughout our system, not only elementary-wise, but secondary-wise. And so that's where our focus and energy is, and that we would not be wanting to entertain that conversation with another district. I think this move appeared to be backed by a couple of Republican legislators, potentially the governor's office. And unfortunately, we weren't invited to that meeting. We didn't know it was going to happen. I do appreciate Mayor Kemp calling and letting us know after the meeting that it had occurred and that there could be some media coverage on it. And so I do have a meeting with the mayor tomorrow, and I think we'll have a good conversation about that. But I don't imagine that's legislation that not only Iowa City would not be supportive of, but probably many districts throughout the state would find highly problematic for cities to leave a school district and some of the chaos that would be created along with that. And so, again, we know it's been a hard, difficult, and emotional situation for Hills. Not a decision that we made lightly, and our focus now is making sure that we can take advantage of those efforts to try to repair relationships and situate students for a great experience here in the district. And so that'll be the focus of my conversation with Mayor Kemp tomorrow is, what are those future opportunities, and making sure he's well abreast of our transition plans. And that'll be a focus of an item for you guys here at the second April meeting, would be to come back to those Hills transition and update and more specifics, similar to how we did with the middle school transition tonight.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Just on the AEA funds, when you said they'll be wide open, is that just going to go into the general fund, or is it going to be categorical, or do we just not know that?
Well, it's stated currently for any general fund purpose.
Okay.
Now, there were some members of the House that didn't like that. And so there was a little bit of reporting on that too, that they were going to go in and try to clean that up. But I'm not sure that that's gained any additional traction since then. But the way the law is currently written is that those median ed service dollars could be used for any general fund purpose. Again, we need to account for what was the AEA providing, right, that they'll no longer be able to, that we need to expend those funds on. But you can imagine where my head went with that we still have some budget challenges ahead of us. And if there's potential relief we can provide to our general fund, that'll be some of our consideration for sure with those dollars.
And when did Chief Spear, you said a couple of months, but does he have a firmer date about when they might, because obviously, I mean, they could take a year, I suppose, to really decide, but I'm just wondering when they might know, or are they able to sort of line item a little bit, like this is how much
They're going to have to give us a good idea before July, because
Okay.
we're going to have to start to enter into some contracts and agreements with them by July. And so we're going to have a good, at least their best idea about what those things look like. But I still think this year is going to be a learning year, and that's why we'll also caution against, expending out those funds, because there could be unexpected things we encounter throughout the year, like, oh, that was something that the AEA was doing that now we need to provide, or we may find that gap in service becomes so large we do need to expend some of those funds.
and it's not going to hurt us if that goes on our unspent balance.
Exactly, and so that is an obvious priority for us.
Right.
Yeah.
One question on the discussion with Hills. Let's say that legislation was passed and the town went down that route. What would that mean for, especially the secondary students? I'm thinking middle school and high school. Would they have to open enroll in the district? What would that mean transportation-wise for them or anything like that?
Yeah, it's hard to talk through the whole hypothetical without knowing, but if you consider the students in the city of Hills that would currently be in our secondary schools, what will be our middle schools, our high schools, then they would become basically residents of a new district, so they would need to open enroll into the district, so they would then, as an open enrolled student, not receive things like transportation, for example. So they could, of course, continue to attend here in Iowa City, but they wouldn't have transportation into our schools that we've been providing currently. I think there'd also be a lot of conversation for municipalities, Hills or otherwise, about, well, which district do we go to, right? It's not only that you would potentially exit one, it's where do you go? There's a lot of choice in the system right now for folks. I mean, they can make, open enrollment decisions. They can they can choose to get on a voucher and go to a private school. And so I think there's already plenty of choice in there. I do think this would cause a lot of issue. And then, of course, there's other students that don't necessarily live in the city of Hills that have been zoned to Hills Elementary that would not be impacted by something like this. And so, again, it would be for a small number of students that are identified in that area, is my understanding of it. But again, we haven't seen any proposed legislation, so we would have to talk more about it when we saw that. The threat of it, I guess, too, guys, is if you think about legislative processes, we're past the 2 funnel dates, and so it's not like you would have a bill proposed in a traditional fashion where it'd be vetted out and some of these questions and concerns could probably be played out in a little bit longer and safer fashion. It's more added to these standing bills at the end of the session, and then things get quickly added and probably not have the time spent on them that is required to fully understand the implications.
Any additional questions?
I just want to comment that one additional consideration, I think, for this notion of the city of Hills itself moving to another district is that if that takes a vote of the municipalities or districts involved, it seems to me like that a number of students who are going to Hills now, at least Hills Elementary students, would not have any participation in that decision through their vote because they're not residents of the city of Hills, which to me is a big gap. It's an ununderstandable gap in this kind of thinking. So.
All right. Next up, we have director liaison reports. Are there any items that directors wanted to highlight from their reports?
I did. So Saturday night, I had the hottest ticket in town to the City High Jazz Showcase, where the #1 jazz high school band performed, and it was the quality of professionals. I thought I was in a jazz club. And our City High instrumental music program arguably has the #1 program in the state. Not only the jazz band, but the, I believe it's the wind ensemble won the 4A Iowa Bandmasters Championship. So there's one more time for you to, one more opportunity for you to hear that jazz band, and it is May 24th at the Friday Night Concert Series at the Pedmal, and I encourage everyone to go.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing none, we will go to agenda setting. First up is the education meeting, which will be on April 16th. And it appears we will be at Shimmick Elementary starting at 4:30, and the presentation will be on professional learning communities. Then up next, we have our policy and governance meeting on April 23rd, beginning at 5 o'clock in the back of the boardroom, and the 700 series, 800 series will be reviewed. And then lastly, for April 23rd, we will have our regularly scheduled Board of Directors meeting with Education Showcase. Not sure if that's been identified yet, but we'll have that standing item as well as our equity update, and I'm assuming for presentation, that will be the HEALS transition update or HEALS update, and Superintendent Degner can formally update us regarding his conversation with Mayor Kemp. Anything else that I'm missing?
I'm interested in the comments that were made earlier in this meeting about the effects of kids looking at screens for long periods of time. If there's some shared interest on the part of other board members, I wonder if we can arrange to have some kind of a discussion of that. Maybe not at this meeting, but or if it's possible at this meeting.
Well, probably not possible for this meeting, I don't
No,
think.
no,
but
no,
Superintendent- I mean, right, the next meeting, April
meeting,
23rd.
yeah.
But let's turn to Superintendent Degner, because I know his team is probably busy on a couple other things, but is it possible, or would you need to look at a future meeting date?
Yeah, I don't think we'd be ready to go by the 23rd, but we have started a couple of you have asked questions of a similar nature before about devices, or we've gotten some feedback from community members. And so we have started to work together on pulling together some information along those lines. The commenter tonight was focused on screen time. I think those are, a relevant, those are very relevant comments to consider in this conversation. So I do think we'll be back to you at a later date with a more holistic conversation about that, and hearing from almost like the commenter mentioned tonight, really a diverse group of stakeholders about what the impact is, and some of the impact to teachers, to leaders, to kids, to parents. I think that's, the best. I think we're hearing more of that, and so it's a timely conversation for us to have.
I think we might have a former board member who's an optometrist as well. That
Yeah,
might have some.
probably have some.
I just think, drawing in, obviously it's a thing. It's a serious issue. People are on screens more than ever before. We're using them. We see a lot of value in one-to-one. And so just having some information and some guidance on what this is doing and the impacts.
Agreed. Anything else? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Personally.